You wake to the sound of reed mats crunching under sandaled feet, the air thick with the metallic tang of incense and the faint, mournful bleat of goats tethered for sacrifice. The night clings to the mud brick walls of your home, walls that sweat with the lingering heat of the Babylonian day. It is still dark, but you feel the shift in the air, heavy with a silence that is not natural. Your hands clutch at the rough woolen blanket your mother had spun from the last harvest's wool, though even that comfort feels fragile, slipping away beneath your trembling fingers. You are 12 summers old, barely more than a child, with skin unscarred and eyes wide with the untested innocence of youth. But the men at the door are not family. They are priests from the great temple of Marduk, shaved heads gleaming in the torchlight, their robes dyed the deep purple extracted from thousands of crushed murex snails traded from distant seas. The richest dye in the world, fit only for gods and kings. One priest, his beard curled with careful precision like the tail of a scorpion, bends low. His breath is warm against your ear as he whispers in a cadence that promises divine favor. You do not understand the words, but the weight of them presses against you like iron chains. Your mother weeps silently in the corner. She does not move to stop them. Her calloused fingers twist and twist the hem of her tunic, the threads unraveling under her grip. She cannot refuse the gods, nor those who claim to speak for them. A refusal is not merely unthinkable, it would mean ruin. For in Hammurabi's Babylon, the temple is more than sacred. It is the heart of law, economy, and judgment. Defiance against its demands is defiance against the order of the world itself. And you, though you do not yet grasp it, have been chosen. Fear coils in your gut like floodwaters of the Euphrates, cold, unstoppable, merciless. The priests lift you from your bed, their rings digging into your skin, heavy with carved lapis lazuli and engraved bronze, symbols of power and wealth beyond anything your family could imagine. You struggle, but your body is light in their hands and your voice dies in your throat. Outside, the streets lie under starlight, the ziggurat looming in the distance like a stairway for gods, layered tier upon tier, waiting to swallow you whole. The night air bites at your bare arms as they march you forward through winding alleys, past homes where oil lamps flicker behind latticed windows. The light throws jagged shadows across clay walls as though the city itself watches. You hear the murmur of the river nearby, sluggish and dark under the moon, bearing the silt that feeds the fields beyond the walls. Babylon, in those years around 1800 BCE, under King Hammurabi's rule, sprawls like a living beast. Its avenues throb with markets by day, its heart pulsing in the temple district by night. Hammurabi, son of Sinubalat, had been born around 1810 BCE and ascended the throne in 1792. He had gathered the sprawling patchwork of Mesopotamian city-states into a formidable empire. His authority, immortalized in the black diorite steel of his code, stood tall for all to see, carved with laws said to be handed down by Shamash, the god of justice. But even Hammurabi bowed to the ancient priesthood. The temples had existed before his throne, and they would endure after it crumbled. Their rites were carved not only into stone but into clay tablets, into rituals repeated so often they seemed to predate memory itself. The priests drag you onward, their silence more frightening than threats. Only the soft clink of copper pendants and the rasp of sandals on brick break the stillness. When you stumble on a loose paving stone, the grip on your shoulder tightens, rings pressing into flesh like the claws of the lions carved into palace walls. The priest's eyes, rimmed with black coal to ward off evil spirits, flick toward you. It is not a look of cruelty nor kindness, but of one convinced he serves powers greater than kings, powers that twist human lives into offerings. You think of your mother, left behind in that dim room, tears soaking into the clay floor. You think of the fields outside the city where you once chased fireflies at dusk, your laughter echoing in the warm evening air. That life is already slipping from you, as if a door has closed forever. The temple awaits, its shadow stretching over you like a prophecy. In the streets, life stirs faintly despite the hour. A donkey brays in the distance. A lone potter stokes a kiln's embers, orange glow flickering through an open courtyard. Somewhere a baby cries, then falls silent, as if even the innocent sense the gravity of this procession. Babylon is never truly asleep. It breathes through the night. But tonight, its pulse is muted, subdued, as though it too bears witness. As the towering bulk of the ziggurat rises closer, the air changes. Smoke of myrrh and cedar drifts down from temple fires, mingling with the musk of animals penned for sacrifice. The massive structure looms, built layer upon layer, its base a mountain of baked brick, its summit reaching toward the heavens. The priests of Marduk rule here with a power that kings themselves dare not fully challenge. And beneath their authority lies another god, one who waits for you. Ishtar, goddess of love and war, whose worship demands bodies as well as prayers. You have not been chosen for your strength nor for your wit. You have been chosen for your purity, for being untouched, a boy on the cusp of manhood, set aside not for your own life but for hers. The gods require vessels, and tonight you are claimed. The torchlight flickers as they lead you into the temple district. Behind you the city seems to vanish. Ahead, the gates of the enclosure loom open, swallowing you into a world where innocence ends. The boy who left his mother's house a moment ago will not return. You wake to the sound of reed mats crunching under sandaled feet, the air thick with the metallic tang of incense and the faint, mournful bleat of goats tethered for sacrifice. The night clings to the mud brick walls of your home, walls that sweat with the lingering heat of the Babylonian day. It is still dark, but you feel the shift in the air, heavy with a silence that is not natural. Your hands clutch at the rough woolen blanket your mother had spun from the last harvest's wool, though even that comfort feels fragile, slipping away beneath your trembling fingers. You are 12 summers old, barely more than a child, with skin unscarred and eyes wide with the untested innocence of youth. But the men at the door are not family. They are priests from the great temple of Marduk, shaved heads gleaming in the torchlight, their robes dyed the deep purple extracted from thousands of crushed murex snails traded from distant seas. The richest dye in the world, fit only for gods and kings. One priest, his beard curled with careful precision like the tail of a scorpion, bends low. His breath is warm against your ear as he whispers in a cadence that promises divine favor. You do not understand the words, but the weight of them presses against you like iron chains. Your mother weeps silently in the corner. She does not move to stop them. Her calloused fingers twist and twist the hem of her tunic, the threads unraveling under her grip. She cannot refuse the gods, nor those who claim to speak for them. A refusal is not merely unthinkable, it would mean ruin. For in Hammurabi's Babylon, the temple is more than sacred. It is the heart of law, economy, and judgment. Defiance against its demands is defiance against the order of the world itself. And you, though you do not yet grasp it, have been chosen. Fear coils in your gut like floodwaters of the Euphrates, cold, unstoppable, merciless. The priests lift you from your bed, their rings digging into your skin, heavy with carved lapis lazuli and engraved bronze, symbols of power and wealth beyond anything your family could imagine. You struggle, but your body is light in their hands and your voice dies in your throat. Outside, the streets lie under starlight, the ziggurat looming in the distance like a stairway for gods, layered tier upon tier, waiting to swallow you whole. The night air bites at your bare arms as they march you forward through winding alleys, past homes where oil lamps flicker behind latticed windows. The light throws jagged shadows across clay walls as though the city itself watches. You hear the murmur of the river nearby, sluggish and dark under the moon, bearing the silt that feeds the fields beyond the walls. Babylon, in those years around 1800 BCE, under King Hammurabi's rule, sprawls like a living beast. Its avenues throb with markets by day, its heart pulsing in the temple district by night. Hammurabi, son of Simubalat, had been born around 1810 BCE and ascended the throne in 1792. He had gathered the sprawling patchwork of Mesopotamian city-states into a formidable empire. His authority, immortalized in the black diorite steel of his code, stood tall for all to see, carved with laws said to be handed down by Shamash, the god of justice. But even Hammurabi bowed to the ancient priesthood. The temples had existed before his throne, and they would endure after it crumbled. Their rites were carved not only into stone but into clay tablets, into rituals repeated so often they seemed to predate memory itself. The priests drag you onward, their silence more frightening than threats. Only the soft clink of copper pendants and the rasp of sandals on brick break the stillness. When you stumble on a loose paving stone, the grip on your shoulder tightens, rings pressing into flesh like the claws of the lions carved into palace walls. The priest's eyes, rimmed with black coal to ward off evil spirits, flick toward you. It is not a look of cruelty nor kindness, but of one convinced he serves powers greater than kings, powers that twist human lives into offerings. You think of your mother, left behind in that dim room, tears soaking into the clay floor. You think of the fields outside the city where you once chased fireflies at dusk, your laughter echoing in the warm evening air. That life is already slipping from you, as if a door has closed forever. The temple awaits, its shadow stretching over you like a prophecy. In the streets, life stirs faintly despite the hour. A donkey brays in the distance. A lone potter stokes a kiln's embers, orange glow flickering through an open courtyard. Somewhere a baby cries, then falls silent, as if even the innocent sensed the gravity of this procession. Babylon is never truly asleep. It breathes through the night. But tonight, its pulse is muted, subdued, as though it too bears witness. As the towering bulk of the ziggurat rises closer, the air changes. Smoke of myrrh and cedar drifts down from temple fires, mingling with the musk of animals penned for sacrifice. The massive structure looms, built layer upon layer, its base a mountain of baked brick, its summit reaching toward the heavens. The priests of Marduk rule here with a power that kings themselves dare not fully challenge. And beneath their authority lies another god, one who waits for you. Ishtar, goddess of love and war, whose worship demands bodies as well as prayers. You have not been chosen for your strength nor for your wit. You have been chosen for your purity, for being untouched, a boy on the cusp of manhood, set aside not for your own life but for hers. The gods require vessels, and tonight you are claimed. The torchlight flickers as they lead you into the temple district. Behind you the city seems to vanish. Ahead, the gates of the enclosure loom open, swallowing you into a world where innocence ends. The boy who left his mother's house a moment ago will not return. They take you deeper into the temple, past towering walls painted with scenes of gods and kings. The air grows heavier with each step, thick with smoke from bronze braziers where myrrh burns in curling tendrils. The priests lead you into a chamber far from the courtyard's eyes. Its walls are covered in frescoes, lions locked in combat with bulls, their jaws open in eternal rage, their claws tearing at flesh. Symbols of Ishtar's nature, lover and destroyer, fertile mother and warrior queen. The images seem to shift in the flickering light, alive with menace. The chamber smells of olive oil, sweat, and the faint bitterness of tallow candles. Their flames sputter in the draft that seeps through narrow vents, the only connection to the outside world. Here the priests prepare you. They strip away your simple linen tunic, the fabric rough from the flax your father once harvested before the flood carried him away. Naked, you shiver despite the heat of the enclosed space. They anoint your body with scented oils pressed from sesame seeds, murmuring incantations passed down through generations. The words are not meant for you, they are offerings to Ishtar, invocations calling her presence into the room. And then the silence begins. They leave you with only a straw mat in the corner and a jug of water flavored with tamarisk leaves, meant to purify the blood. The door closes behind them, the scrape of stone against stone echoing like a tomb ceiling shut. Days stretch into a blur. The chamber becomes both prison and altar. Hunger gnaws at you as the meals come late and sparse, barely enough to dull the ache in your stomach. You begin to hear things in the quiet, distant chants drifting through the walls, high-pitched voices of the gala priests, their songs a haunting lament that seeps into your dreams. At first you resist. You whisper your mother's name into the dark, as though her presence could still reach you. You count the cracks in the wall, the scratches in the stone floor. But the isolation wears you down. The silence is not empty, it presses in from all sides, suffocating, demanding surrender. Visions come in the dim half-light. You see your mother's face, lined with grief, her eyes blurred with tears. You see the fields where you once chased fireflies beneath the summer sky, though the memory twists, the fireflies becoming sparks that burn your hands. You wake with a cry, but no one answers. The chamber does not care for your fear. It devours it. On the third night he comes. And Makar. The sound of amulets announces him before the door opens. The soft clink of lapis lazuli carved into protective shapes, imported from mountains so far away you cannot imagine them. He enters slowly, his presence filling the room. He sits cross-legged before you, robes pooling on the floor like liquid gold. His gaze is steady, unblinking, searching your face for signs of defiance. The goddess requires vessels empty of mortal taint, he says at last, his voice low, smooth as polished obsidian. To serve her, you must be cleansed of desire. To resist is to dishonor her and bring ruin upon your bloodline. You want to scream, to beg him to release you, but the words will not form. Fear grips your throat, and in that silence, his meaning is clear. Refusal is not an option. Not for you. Not for your mother, who would be left with nothing, her land seized and her name disgraced. In Hammurabi's Babylon, the temples will outweigh any law. Even the mighty king cannot challenge omens read in sheep livers, or rituals etched into clay. And so you listen. He explains the rite in hushed tones, not with cruelty, but with the solemnity of a man who has convinced himself of its necessity. His eyes soften for a moment. Was he once a boy like you, brought trembling into this same chamber? The thought flickers, but then it is gone, replaced by certainty. He believes in the gods' hunger, in their need for your body, your voice, your very self. And that belief is more unshakable than stone. Historical tablets recovered from places like Nippur and Babylon itself speak of this path. They record the roles of the Asinu and the Kurgaru, male devotees of Ishtar who wore women's garments, who danced and sang laments in her honor. They were not born to this life, they were made. Chosen, transformed, their bodies altered to prevent them from ever leaving the goddess's service. To be a servant of Ishtar was not a calling. It was a remaking, a breaking down of one life to build another that belonged not to you but to her. And now it is your turn. The silence of the chamber grows heavier with the weight of this knowledge. You feel as though the frescoes themselves watch you, the painted lions snarling in eternal hunger. Your own body feels strange, no longer yours, claimed already by powers beyond your reach. Outside, the temple continues its ceaseless rhythm. Chants rising and falling, sacrifices bleeding into the earth, the city pulsing around it like a heart. But here, inside this chamber, you are alone, waiting. The isolation is the first step in breaking you, and you can feel it working already. Each hour that passes strips away a piece of who you once were, until only the shell remains. And that shell is exactly what the goddess requires. The door opens and torchlight floods your chamber. The priests file in, their faces painted with lines of black coal, their eyes dark and sharp as blades. Their robes shimmer with threads of gold and copper, their sashes dyed with indigo brought from distant traders. They say nothing as they lift you from the straw mat, your body weak from hunger and isolation, your skin slick with the oils they have rubbed into you each day. They lead you through a corridor so narrow your shoulders brush against the walls. Torches line the passage, their flames throwing long shadows that twist like living creatures. The air grows hotter, heavier, tinged with the smell of blood and burning fat. You hear the low murmur of chants ahead, voices weaving together in tones that do not sound wholly human. The chamber you enter is vast compared to the cell you left behind. Its ceiling arches high above, painted with stars that shimmer in the firelight. At the center stands an altar carved from black basalt, its surface polished smooth, its edges worn by centuries of offerings. Bowls of incense burn at each corner, spilling clouds of white smoke that curl and twist toward the painted heavens. You are placed before the altar. The chanting swells. Drums beat slow, deliberate, like the heartbeat of the temple itself. Enmakar stands at the altar's far side, his hands lifted, palms upward. His amulets glint in the torchlight, his face serene, as though he alone carries the weight of the divine. When he speaks, his voice rolls like thunder, each word echoing against the stone. Ishtar, Lady of Love and War, Mother of all, Destroyer and Creator, we bring you this vessel. Empty him of what he was. Fill him with what you demand. The priests respond in unison, their voices layered like waves crashing against rock. The sound rattles in your bones. You want to cover your ears to block it out, but your arms are held fast by two attendants, their grips unyielding. You are laid upon the altar. The basalt is cold against your back despite the heat of the chamber. The smoke burns your eyes, blurring the frescoes that cover the walls. Gods embracing, gods striking down kings, gods drinking rivers of blood. A thin knife flashes in the torchlight. For a heartbeat, you think they mean to kill you. Relief flickers in your chest, but it vanishes as the blade only nicks your skin, drawing a thin line of blood across your chest. The priest collects the blood in a shallow dish and lifts it high. He is marked, Enmakar declares. The old flesh begins to die. The attendants lift their voices in a keening wail. It is a sound not of mourning but of transformation, a lament for the self you are leaving behind. You realize with sudden clarity that this is the first death you will suffer, not of the body but of the person you once were. The ritual continues. They press herbs to the wound, pungent and bitter, stinging your skin. They paint your body with streaks of ochre and lapis dust, spirals and lines meant to break the boundary between man and God, between servant and vessel. All the while, Enmakar chants prayers that twist around your thoughts until you no longer know where his words end and your own begin. Forget the boy who ran in the fields. Forget the son who wept in his mother's arms. That life is gone. You belong to the goddess now. She will remake you. The smoke thickens and your head swims. The chants blur into a single endless sound. You feel the press of countless eyes upon you, the priests, the painted gods, perhaps even the goddess herself. Your chest rises and falls in ragged rhythm, and for a moment you cannot tell whether it is your heart or the drums that beat within you. Then silence. The fall so suddenly it crushes you. Every voice stops, every drum stills, and only the crackle of torches remains. Enmakar lowers his hands and looks down at you, and in his eyes you see not cruelty but inevitability. The vessel is broken, he says softly, almost tenderly. Now it can be filled. The attendants lift you from the altar. Your body feels weightless, hollow, as though some essential part of you has already been taken. You are carried back through the narrow corridors, back to the chamber where it began. But the chamber no longer feels like a prison. It feels like a tomb, the place where the boy you were has been buried. Outside, the temple hums with life. Priests preparing offerings, singers rehearsing laments, scribes inscribing clay tablets with the deeds of kings. The city goes on, unaware, uncaring. But inside these walls, you have crossed a threshold from which there is no return. You are no longer a son. No longer simply a boy. You are something else now, though you do not yet know what that will mean. The first ritual is done. The death of the self is complete. The boy is no more. The priests have stripped you of memory, voice, and name. But still one thing remains, your body, that last tether to the life you once knew. It must be undone, because the goddess does not accept servants who carry the burden of desire. To be remade in Ishtar's image, the vessel must be emptied not only of spirit but of flesh. The day comes again without warning. At dawn, attendants enter your chamber. They do not speak. They wash you in bowls of water perfumed with juniper and tamarisk, scrubbing your skin until it burns raw. They shave your head, your face, your body, leaving you smooth, bare, and strange even to your own eyes. The hair is collected carefully, not discarded, for it is an offering, your first true sacrifice. They clothe you in a simple white garment, a tunic belted with a cord of woven reeds. Nothing more. Then they lead you once again through the labyrinthine corridors of the temple. The torches burn brighter today, and the scent of incense is thicker, as though the temple itself breathes heavier in anticipation. The chamber they bring you to is smaller than the ritual hall, but more dreadful in its intimacy. The walls are plain stone, unadorned, as though the gods themselves need no paintings here. A single brazier burns in the center, filling the room with acrid smoke. Beside it stands Enmakar, his expression grave, his hands already stained with oil and ash. Around him, for assistance, prepare implements of bronze and obsidian, their edges catching the firelight. Your legs tremble. You know what is coming. No one has spoken it aloud, not yet. But whispers in the dark cell reached you. Half-murmured fragments from the older servants, broken phrases carried through the walls. The knife, the offering, the unmaking. You tried to dismiss them as fevered dreams, but now as you see the blades, you understand. Enmakar raises his hand, and the attendants stop their preparations. He steps toward you, his amulets clinking softly. His voice, when it comes, is steady, almost gentle. The goddess demands purity. Desire is the chain that binds men to the earth. To serve Ishtar, you must be freed from it. Today you are not destroyed. You are perfected. Perfected. The word lands heavy like a stone in your chest. The attendant sees your arms and legs holding you fast. You cry out, but the sound is swallowed by the smoke and the chanting that begins anew, low and rhythmic, like the tolling of a distant bell. The knife glints. Pain erupts. It is fire, it is tearing, it is a scream that rips from your throat and echoes against the walls until it is no longer your voice but some other creature's wail. The attendants do not flinch. Enmakar does not pause. The knife does its work swiftly, efficiently, as it has done to countless others before you. When it is over, the world is blurred. The chamber tilts and sways, your body trembling with shock. You feel the wetness of blood, the press of linen bandages, the sting of pungent herbs ground into the wound to stop the flow. You are lowered onto a reed mat. Your breaths come shallow and ragged. Above you, the smoke twists into shapes that seem almost alive. Faces, wings, eyes that blink and vanish. Perhaps the goddess is watching. Perhaps she is pleased. Enmakar kneels beside you. His voice is close, almost inside your ear. You are hers now. Forever. No wife, no children, no bloodline. You will sing her songs, dance her laments, wear her garments. You are not man, not woman. You are of the goddess. The world will fear you, mock you, need you, worship you. But never again will you belong to yourself. His words settle into you like molten lead. You want to fight them, to reject them, but your body is broken, your will drained. You close your eyes, and in the dark behind them, you see your mother's face one last time. Then it fades, slipping away like water between your fingers. The unmaking is complete. From this day forward, you are Gala, servant of Ishtar. The temple is your home, your cage, your grave. The city will see you in festivals, dressed in bright robes, singing in a voice higher and stranger than it once was. They will whisper about you, avert their eyes, yet know that without you, the goddess would not hear their prayers. You are a contradiction, a holy paradox, both exalted and broken. And all of it was carved from your flesh by the will of gods and the hands of men. The boy is gone. Only the vessel remains. The body has been broken. The voice remains. And it is the voice that the temple now demands. Your days begin with song. Before dawn, you are led with others into the courtyard, where the air still holds the coolness of night. The priests stand in rows, their heads bowed, their hands clasped in silent prayer. You and the others kneel at the front, facing the east where the horizon glows faintly red. As the first sliver of the sun appears, the hymns begin, low, mournful chants that rise in slow waves, filling the temple grounds with a sound that is less music than incantation. The songs are not yours. They are laments for gods and kings, for the dying and the dead. They are prayers woven in a language older than Babylon itself. You do not understand all the words, but you feel their weight. Each syllable carries grief, loss, surrender. In time, you learn to pour your own suffering into them. Your voice cracks at first, but the priests correct you harshly, striking you when you falter, until you learn to let the pain sharpen the sound rather than break it. After song comes service. You sweep the temple floors, polish the bronze vessels, grind the incense into fine powder. Your hands grow rough, your back aches, but you learn quickly that these tasks are part of worship. Cleanliness is not for the priests, not for the people. It is for the goddess. Every speck of dust removed, every flame tended, is an offering. When the temple opens to the city, you become part of its face. Draped in long skirts dyed crimson and indigo, adorned with beads of lapis and shells, you walk in slow procession behind the priests. Your movements must be graceful, your eyes lowered, your steps in perfect rhythm with the drums. Children stare. Some laugh. Some point. Their mothers pull them back, whispering warnings, though their own eyes linger with unease. Neither man nor woman, they murmur, belonging to the goddess. You are both sacred and strange, necessary and despised. During great festivals, your role is larger. In the courtyard of Ishtar's temple, beneath the towering ziggurat, you dance. The drums pound, the flutes wail, and your body, once broken, is now commanded to move with abandon. You spin until the skirts flare around your legs, your arms cutting arcs through the smoky air. The chants rise, and you join in, your altered voice blending with the others into a sound that is unearthly, piercing, unforgettable. The people gathered below watch in silence. Some weep, some turn away, but all believe. Behind the spectacle, daily life is harsh. Meals are simple: bread, onions, dates, watered beer. Sleep is brief and restless. Punishments are swift and merciless for mistakes. Missteps, cracked notes, forgotten rituals. You live in a dormitory with others like you, each of you carrying the same scar, the same hollow ache where something vital once was. In the dark, when the chanting stops and the city sleeps, you whisper to one another. One boy tells of his village, burned by Hammurabi soldiers. Another remembers the river where he used to fish with his father. You too recall your mother's embrace, though the memory grows dimmer each year, as if swallowed by the temple's walls. These whispers are dangerous, but they are the only way to remind yourselves you once lived another life. Yet the temple is not only cruelty. In rare moments there is comfort. Some of the older eunuchs take you under their wing, teaching you how to breathe properly for the songs, how to move so your skirts glide instead of tangle, how to find strength in obedience. They tell you survival is not in fighting the temple, but in mastering its demands so completely that you vanish into its rhythm. And there are the rituals themselves, which sometimes bring a strange kind of transcendence. When the drums thunder and your voice soars with the others, when the incense burns so thick it blinds your eyes and the people below cry out in devotion, you feel yourself dissolve. For a moment there is no pain, no loss, no memory of the knife or the boy you once were. There is only the goddess, vast and consuming, and you, her vessel, her sound, her shadow. But when the ritual ends, the silence returns. The skirts are heavy again. The beads dig into your skin. The scar burns when you lie down to sleep. This is life now, neither freedom nor death, but something in between. You are exalted, despised, necessary, forgotten. You are a servant of Ishtar, a voice for a goddess who demands everything and returns nothing. And somewhere deep inside, buried beneath the chants and the garments and the scar, a small voice still whispers, "I was once a boy." The temple walls may be high, but the empire reaches farther. You begin to notice it in whispers first. New faces arriving in the dormitories, boys whose accents are not your own. Some speak in broken Babylonian, others barely speak at all, their eyes wide with fear, their bodies trembling as they are dragged into the same cycle you endured. The cell, the silence, the ritual, the knife. They are tribute. Hammurabi's armies march far, beyond Sippar, beyond Larsa, beyond Mari. Each city that falls must give offerings. grain, silver, livestock, and sometimes sons. The strongest for soldiers, the brightest for scribes, and the most beautiful for the temples. To the outside world, these offerings are gifts to the gods. To those inside the temple, they are sacrifices of flesh and will. You meet them in fragments. One boy from Eshnunna weeps every night, whispering names you do not recognize, perhaps his brothers, perhaps his gods, for his land worships others, not Ishtar. The priests beat him when he refuses to sing, until finally his voice breaks open into the goddess's laments, whether in devotion or despair you cannot tell. Another is from distant Mari, captured when Hammurabi's armies burned its palaces. He speaks of the Euphrates flowing wide and strong, of grand halls decorated with cedar, of kings who thought themselves invincible. Now he scrubs temple floors beside you, his back bent, his words silenced unless they praise Ishtar. There are boys from villages too small to name, their lives erased before they began, known only as vessels for the goddess. Together you form a strange brotherhood of the unmade, bound not by blood or choice but by absence, what was taken from you and what remains. Through them you see the empire itself. Hammurabi's laws are spoken of in the courtyards, carved into stone steely for all to read. The priests praise his wisdom, his order, his justice. But for you and the others, justice is a word that cuts. What justice exists in a knife pressed to your flesh? What order is found in screams muffled by incense smoke? And yet, the empire depends on you. When Hammurabi conquers, it is not enough to take land. He must bind gods as well. Temples are rebuilt, altars rededicated, and in every great house of worship, there must be servants like you, gala priests, voices for the goddess, proof that Ishtar herself bows to Babylon's order. You realize this when a caravan arrives. You and others are ordered to dress in full festival robes, skirts heavy with beads, faces painted, lips stained with crushed berries. You walk in procession as offerings from conquered lands are paraded before the temple. Gold from Mari, timber from Elam, grain from Larsa. Behind them, chained captives stumble, their heads bowed. The crowd cheers. They cheer Hammurabi's name, his glory, his empire. But when they see you, your painted face, your scar hidden beneath robes, some grow silent. Some sneer. A few spit. They know what you are, and it unsettles them. Sacred, yes, but also a reminder of what empire demands. Later, in whispers among yourselves, one boy says what none dare speak aloud. We are tribute too. It is the truth. You are not chosen. You are taken like grain from fields, like cattle from pens, like stone from quarries. You are the goddess's tax, paid in flesh by the conquered to glorify the conqueror. And yet, in this brutal order there is something more. As you sing the laments, as you dance in the festivals, as the city watches in awe or disgust, you begin to sense the strange power of your role. The people may mock, but they listen. The kings may conquer, but they need your voice to bind the gods to their rule. Hammurabi's empire, for all its might, still bends before your chants, your dances, your scar. It is a bitter power, but power nonetheless. And so you continue, singing, sweeping, dancing, surviving. With each conquest, more arrive, more are broken, more join your ranks. The temple swells with voices, a chorus of the unmade. Together you become the sound of an empire, the lament that echoes through every city. Hammurabi bends to his law. But in the silence after the songs, when the incense fades and the crowds disperse, the truth remains. Beneath the glory of empire, beneath the masks and the robes, you are all still boys who were taken, broken, and remade. And somewhere in that shared silence, a question lingers like smoke in the rafters. If the empire can break us, can it ever unmake what we remember? The year turns on the rhythm of festivals. And in those days when the goddess is celebrated with wine and song, the line between sacred and profane vanishes. From dawn, the city swells with sound. Drums echo through the streets, pipes shriek, and dancers whirl in painted masks. Merchants close their stalls, and even the king himself descends from his palace to join the rites. For these days belong not to Hammurabi, nor to the laws carved in stone, but to Ishtar, the goddess who loves and destroys, who makes men kings and kings beggars, who dances barefoot on the battlefield, drunk on blood and joy. You are dressed differently for these days. Not in the plain garments of service, nor even the ceremonial skirts of procession, but in garments meant to dazzle and unsettle. Bright silks shimmer on your body, red and purple, the colors of fire and dusk. Your face is painted in wild patterns, eyes ringed in kohl, lips darkened, cheeks smeared with ochre. Beads clatter from your wrists, bells chime from your ankles. The people gather in the great courtyard before the temple. Fires burn high, filling the night with flickering gold. Wine flows like water. Meat roasts on spits. The air is thick with sweat, smoke, and hunger. And then the drums begin. Your body moves before your mind can think. The rhythm takes you, faster, harder, unrelenting. You spin, you leap, your skirts fly wide, the bells at your feet jangling with every strike of the drum. Around you, others like you dance as well, a storm of color and sound. The crowd howls. Some laugh, some shout insults, but most stare wide-eyed, transfixed. You feel their unease, their fascination. You are neither man nor woman, yet you move with the force of both, your voice rising in shrieks and laments that pierce the smoke. The people recoil, then lean closer, unable to look away. The priests call this ecstasy. They say it is the goddess moving through you, unbinding the laws of men, turning the world upside down. For a few hours, the poor feast like kings, the kings dance like slaves, and you, broken, unmade, remade, stand at the center, the living paradox that embodies her power. Some nights, the rites go further. The crowd surges forward, their hands grasping, their mouths calling out prayers and curses alike. They want to touch you, to feel the holiness of your body, to see if some of the goddess clings to your skin. Wine is poured over your head, staining your silks, dripping into your eyes. The drums pound faster, until you lose track of your limbs, until you no longer know where your body ends and the music begins. You collapse, gasping, your chest heaving. And for a moment, lying on the temple stones, you feel weightless. No scar, no past, no boy. Only sound, smoke, and the shadow of the goddess pressing against your ribs. But when the festival ends, when dawn comes, the robes are stripped away. The bells are taken, the paint washed off. You are returned to your simple tunic, your dormitory, your chores. The same rough bread, the same thin beer. The same silence. Still, the festivals leave their mark. You see it in the faces of the people. Fear, fascination, even reverence. They may spit on you in the streets, call you cursed, mock your voice. But in the festival, they saw you glow with the fire of Ishtar, and that image cannot be erased. The priests know this too. They remind you that you are instruments, nothing more, but in their eyes, you sometimes catch a flicker of something else. Fear perhaps. Or envy. Because in those nights of ecstasy, when the goddess comes alive through your broken body, you hold a power even kings cannot touch. Outside the temple gates, you are no longer only a servant. You are a contradiction the city cannot resolve. On ordinary days when you walk through the markets to fetch grain or water, you feel their eyes. Mothers pull their children back as you pass, whispering that to touch you brings bad luck. Merchants glance up from their scales and mutter curses under their breath. A few men shout insults, half-thing, unman, curse-bearer. You keep your head bowed, your steps steady, your mouth closed. To answer is forbidden. To fight back would mean the whip or worse. But those same men who spit at you in daylight come trembling at night, when sickness grips their children or dreams trouble their sleep. They slip coins into your hands, begging you to sing a lament or whisper a prayer on their behalf. For all their mockery, they know your voice belongs to the goddess, and the goddess listens when you sing. This is the paradox you live, despised in the market, yet sought in secret, shamed in public, yet indispensable in ritual. Sometimes the city shows its reverence more openly. When plague strikes or storms destroy the crops, the priests lead great processions through the streets. You march at the center, robes glittering, voice raised high in lament. The people throw flowers and ashes at your feet, symbols of beauty and death, as if unsure which you embody. They kneel as you pass, but their eyes flicker with fear. To them, you are not a person. You are an omen, walking proof of the goddess's power to unmake what is whole. Among yourselves, in the dormitories, you whisper about these contradictions. Some of the younger boys weep when the people curse them, asking why they must bear such hatred when they did not choose this life. The older ones answer with bitter laughter, because they fear us, because they need us, because the goddess herself cannot be worshipped without us. There is truth in that. The city may turn away, but in the festivals they cheer until their throats bleed. They may scorn you in the market, but they offer you coins in secret. They may call you cursed, but in the temple they kneel before your song. And so a strange kind of pride takes root. Not pride in the pain, nor in the scar that defines you, but in survival itself. You endure what others could not. You carry the weight of their scorn and their reverence, and still you rise each dawn to sing. Some nights, lying awake in the dormitory, you think of the empire. Hammurabi's laws are carved into stone for all to see, declaring justice and order. But you know another law, one older and deeper, that the goddess demands contradiction. She loves and destroys, blesses and curses, gives life and takes it away. And you, neither man nor woman, are her living law, her walking riddle, her paradox made flesh. This knowledge does not ease the ache, but it sharpens you. The people may never understand, but they will never forget. For to see you is to be reminded of Ishtar's truth. Nothing is whole, nothing is safe, nothing endures. Inside the temple, beyond the chants and the incense, there is another life, one the priests never see, one built in whispers and shadows. When the lamps are extinguished and the dormitories grow quiet, you and the others slip into that secret world. At first it is small, a hand held in the dark, a story shared beneath a blanket, a broken melody hummed when the overseers are asleep. But over time it grows into something more, a web of memory and invention, a place where you are not offerings, not omens, not instruments of the goddess, but simply yourselves. Some of you carve marks into the beams above your beds, little symbols no priest could decipher. A river for one who remembers fishing with his father. A grain stalk for another who worked the fields. A star for one who claims to have seen omens in the sky the night he was taken. When the priests pass, they see only scratches. But to you the beams are a hidden record, a story no conqueror can erase. Others make music in secret. With reed flutes smuggled from the markets, with drums fashioned from scraps of leather, you create rhythms different from the temple's songs. Not laments for gods or kings, but wild human sounds that make you laugh until your ribs ache. You dance quietly at first, then bolder, until even the shyest boys move, their bodies finding joy where once there was only pain. And then there are the stories. One among you is always a teller, weaving tales of heroes who escape chains, of gods who trick kings, of rivers that swallow armies whole. These stories are not written on clay, not carved into stone. They live only in breath and memory, changing each time, becoming sharper, freer, more daring. In them you are not eunuchs. You are hunters, kings, wanderers who choose their own fate. It is dangerous, of course. The priests punish disobedience with beatings, fasts, isolation. If they discovered your secret gatherings, they would crush them without hesitation. But in the dark, with the oil lamps flickering low, you feel untouchable. What you build is fragile, but it is yours. Sometimes you even dream of rebellion. One boy swears that if the priests sleep too heavily, he will slip away into the night, find his family again, cross the river and vanish into the hills. Others argue, whispering that the goddess would hunt him down, that the scar cannot be outrun. But the dream lingers, shared in silence. What if escape is possible? What if the empire does not hold every horizon? And so the hidden world grows. A world of laughter stolen from grief, of songs sung only for yourselves, of memories carried in secret symbols. It does not erase the pain. It does not undo the knife. But it reminds you that you are more than what was taken, more than the role forced upon you. By day, you are the goddess's paradox, feared and revered, scorned and exalted. By night, you are simply boys who remember, boys who imagine, boys who survive. And in that survival lies a quiet defiance. For though the priests may own your bodies and the empire may claim your voices, the hidden world belongs to you alone.